This is the Mustang Mach-E, the all-new, all-electric compact SUV from Ford. Starting at $43,000 before incentives and packing up to 300 miles of range. It's one of the first truly compelling electric cars from a legacy automaker. But is it better than Tesla's Model Y? And does it really deserve the Mustang Badge? Welcome to the Kilowatts. 1 month ago, we purchased this extended range all-wheel drive Ford Mustang Mach-E, and we've been pushing it to its limits ever since. In this video, we're gonna be telling you all the reasons we love and all the reasons we hate the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Let's get into it. Here we go. This is a really good car. Today we're headed down to Laguna Seca Raceway just to experience kind of where the Ford Mustang Mach-E excels, and that's daily highway driving anything less than about 200 miles. So from San Francisco to Salinas, California is about 150 miles, and this is a very comfortable car to drive. I am very confident in my range estimations with things like when I zoom out here on the touchscreen, it shows me exactly where I can drive based on my current range. It's mapped out all the roads, and it's actually telling me exactly where I can go, which is definitely a reassuring feature. However, one thing it doesn't do for me is actually actively show me where the nearest chargers are, which is incredibly frustrating. So I actually had to open my phone app, open the Electrify America app, and map to it on my phone, open CarPlay here on the car, and navigate that way, which is absolutely a subpar experience and something I really hope that they're able to improve upon in the future, because while the car will map you to your route with a charger on the way, it's not necessarily optimizing for kind of your overall trip. It's optimizing for the car's battery and maybe the least charging time to get to your destination, but not to also get me back. Beyond that, I have a few complaints on the way that the touchscreen works. It has some little quirks that really should be improved upon, such as if I want to turn on the steering wheel heat, it's just a single tap. The steering wheel is heated, that's awesome. However, if I want to turn on the seat heater, I have to tap once, twice, and maybe even a third time to close that menu, which just seems excessive when I could otherwise just tap it a couple times. And same thing when I turn it off. I have to open the actual seat heater menu and it pops up and all of that. Similarly, when I want to adjust the AC, I'm right now in auto level 3, now I'm in auto level 2, auto level 1, and you'd think auto off or just off would be next. But no, it's back to auto level 3. If I want to turn off the air conditioning, maybe because I want to conserve range, I have to open the heating and cooling menu and actually turn it off manually. So there's just a lot going on with this touchscreen that are kind of inconvenient. This car does have adaptive cruise control and an effective lane centering, lane keep. So I can go ahead and turn that on here with just 2 clicks, one there, and the car is now gonna keep me centered in my lane. I've so far found this is a very good system. It's not something I'd trust quite to the degree of even Tesla's base level autopilot, as it does really require me to actually take over the steering in some situations where I'll be on a kind of a tight turn and it will either suddenly cancel on me with a very light noise, just a little cancel chime, or when it starts to go over the lane line markings, which I would say happens every couple hundred miles. Definitely more, I'd go several dozens of thousands of miles before I ever feel like Tesla's going over a lane line. So I definitely feel like when they come out with their future Copilot 2.0, which will be able to be activated in this car, there's a chance that they'll compete with the base level autopilot, or more like autopilot 1.0 with the old Mobileye system. But I can't see this competing with Tesla's autopilot of today, the enhanced autopilot, or the full self-driving system. I just don't see how the 2 cameras in the front, 2 cameras on the side, and 1 camera in the rear will be nearly as competent as that. Nailed the interior of this car with soft touch materials pretty much everywhere, and it's a very quiet car. One exception to that though is the volume knob and the gear shifter, which are kind of just a cheap plastic, and I find that a little bit disappointing given use those pretty frequently. However, when you do use that volume knob, you're gonna find that the Bang & Olufsen audio system is very nice. It's very warm in its tone, and I really enjoy it. One exception to that, however, is the microphones. They seem to struggle to pick up my voice, both when I'm on phone calls and when I'm using the audio assistant, which can be a little bit frustrating when you're trying to navigate somewhere. So I'm pretty disappointed in that, and hopefully they can fix some of that with a software update. However, when I'm actually sitting here, just enjoying the seat, it's a pretty well comfortable seat. Not particularly sporty in its bolstering, but it's very comfortable for even long drives. And I've got plenty of headroom both here and in the rear. In the second row of the Mach-E, there's plenty of space. I'm only about 5'10", so I'm not even close to the ceiling here, and my knees have plenty of room as well. There's also a little armrest and 2 USB plugs, one USB-C and one USB-A like the front. So it's absolutely a comfortable car for both the driver and the passengers. We continue to find evidence that Ford considers this to be a premium SUV with things like this automatic kick trunk. It also has an adjustable sub-trunk floor to give you just a little bit more space. But in its higher position, you've got basically a lay flat area there. And if you want, you can fold these seats down for even more space. If you're like a Tesla owner, if you know about EV camping, you might enjoy laying flat here. However, at least for me at 5'10", I have to lay diagonally in order to fit right. Finally, in the front trunk of the Mustang Mach-E, it's got a pretty interesting little layout here. It's got a subdivider that is removable, as well as 2 cup holders. If you do remove the front trunk divider, you should be able to fit a carry-on luggage in there. So with the Mustang Mach-E, you're frequently going to find yourself at an Electrify America station, which honestly is pretty similar to Tesla superchargers, especially given that the Ford now has Electrify America's plug-in charge functionality. So all I need to do is just plug in and it starts charging. No need to mess with any cards. All right, after about 45 minutes and a little outlet mall shopping, we're at about 80% charge, which is great for an all-new EV. Now, the frustrating part for me as a consumer is after 80% charge, Ford has decided to limit the Mustang Mach-E, so there's no more DC fast charging at this point, meaning I'll be here another hour and a half if I want to get a full 100% charge. As a consumer, what that also means is on road trips, you're only realistically ever going to want to charge to 80%. But also you're going to want to buffer on the low end just to be safe, so maybe 10, 15%. Meaning you're only ever really going to want to drive 150 miles between stops. That's really disappointing for an EV that should get you up to 300 miles. All right, that took almost a full 3 hours to reach 100% charge. I can't imagine this car will do all that well on the track, given, generally speaking, you want to be as close to 100% charge as possible in order to, maximize your performance. And that, that last 20%, it's just practically impossible to get. So we'll see how it does. We're heading down to Buttonwillow Raceway this weekend. Should be a lot of fun either way. We'll see you there. All right, here we go. We are in the Mustang Mach-E. I've got 234 miles of range, 98% charge, and we are going to track the Mustang Mach-E. This is going to be very interesting because the Mach-E has very thin, efficient tires. I imagine I'll be sliding all over the place, but it should be a lot of fun. Again, this is not a performance car. Ford is coming out with the Mustang GT, the Mach-E GT, and that should be a better performing car. But for now, this is just kind of a family SUV going out on the track with a bunch of Porsches, BMWs, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I just finished my first session here at Buttonwillow Raceway, and let's just say we're not fooling anyone. This is not yet a performance car. It's got 225 wide tires, a very soft suspension, and I was just sliding all around. But it was a lot of fun. We were actually able to keep up with and pass a Scion FRS and keep up with a Porsche 911. I do think that might have been a beginner driving in front of me, but honestly, the acceleration of this car was pretty good and it handled well in the corners when I was pushing it right to its limits. Overall, I can't wait to see the GT performance. I hope it has a much stiffer suspension, some wider wheels, and the last thing is I really hope they fix the charging. Last night when we were charging, we got to 80% on the fast charger, but it began to taper after 80 pretty slow. It took another full hour to get to a full charge. So we're back on the charger now, hoping to get enough charge to be above 90% before our next session, but I don't know if that's gonna happen after we used 30% in the previous session. So we'll see how it goes. Either way, it's been a lot of fun. So, in conclusion, what do we think of the Mustang Mach-E and is it as good as Tesla's Model Y? Well, in my opinion, no, because with this car, you're missing out on Tesla's supercharging, their autopilot, and their UI. And while this car is a phenomenal car, I personally prefer those items. However, is this a Mustang? Does it deserve that badge? Again, I have to say no. This car is not particularly sporty. It is almost a luxury SUV by Ford standards. It is very quiet in the cabin and a very smooth ride. So, missing out on those two things, I am, however, looking forward to the Mustang Mach-E GT Performance because I think that car will really deliver in the ways that it needs to, as well as in Q3 when they add Copilot 360. I think this is going to be a phenomenal car, and anyone who buys it is going to love this car. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you in the next one.